Well, this is the electric bike for two. It's an old Roland Team Sport I've had for about 30 years, maybe a little more. I used to ride the kids around on it quite a bit when they were little. It's a steel frame, so it's pretty heavy, but that kept it more economical. And about 15 years or 20 years ago, I put a Cole Morgan motor on the front. I got these off of eBay, off the internet, for about $130 a piece. Got a pair of them. They're rated at 200 watts at 24 volts, but that's continuous. So I used to run 30 to 36 volts into the motor without any difficulty, because it's not on more than 20 or 30% of the time. I mainly use it for hills, but the older you get, you'll find that the more you need a little help on those big hills. So at any rate, I used to have nickel cadmium and nickel metal hydride batteries on it, which were fairly heavy, and of course they're 1.2 volts per cell. So you have about 30 batteries to make 36 volts. I used the full D size, that is a real D, not just a C or sub-C cell that was inserted into a D plastic case. Those are rated at 10 to 12 ampere hours for the D cell. So it's a pretty stout pack, and at the time they were the least expensive cell, but they are very heavy, and they have a bad tendency to reverse. I used to work at the battery plant here in Gainesville, Florida, that was owned by General Electric, and then Gates Energy and Energizer, and finally Moltec, which bought all the assembly lines and moved them by boat to China, believe it or not. And that was the end of battery manufacturing in the United States. But now we have the lithium cell, so this is the best battery for the money. It's the Kobalt. And these are the proprietary brand of Lowe's. I don't know if you shop at Home Depot or Lowe's, but this is a very nice little charger, 24 volts. It has a fan in it to cool the battery, and it's a pretty quick charge. There's two different sizes of battery you can use. This is the 2 ampere hour. Very light battery, 24 volt. What would you expect to pay for something like this? 24 volts. It will propel your electric bicycle very quickly. Well, believe it or not, these are 20 bucks. $20 at Lowe's. And they didn't tell me to advertise them. They didn't pay me to advertise them. For a little bit more money, you can get the 4 ampere hour, which is about twice the size, but it's $50, which is more than twice the price. So I tend to think this is better if you're going for a long ride, say 5 or 6 miles. You'll need the extra amp hours, but the other one is lighter and cheaper. You can have 2 of these for the same, well, actually for less money, but you'd have to swap them out in the mid-run. Now here's the hard part. You've got to build your own mounting frame for it. And I made these out of PVC plastic that they make fence posts out of. And you can see it's, you know, an 1/8 of an inch wide, so I've doubled it up here and bolted it through. And I have a plus terminal and a minus terminal here. This is nothing more than 12 gauge copper house wiring, which I have flattened a little bit with my hammer. And so this fits very nicely in the groove. You just jam it down in here, and hopefully it'll seat. If you get them mounted right, they seat fine. Let's see if it goes on for me. Looks like it does. So there you go, you're ready to go. Now these are the old tubes that I had my nickel cadmium batteries in. I'd love to show you them, but I've already recycled them. There were 5 cells in each tube. So I had 4 tubes. That gives you 20 cells or 24 volts. And one by one they begin to fail. That pack must have lasted 15 years though, so it's pretty good. This little bike will go pretty far and pretty fast if you need it to. I have an emergency switch on it here, just an old light switch, and this will turn it off so that somebody can't inadvertently start it. This is go and this is stop. And you have to be careful because I don't recommend this, but if you're on a limited budget, you can make what I call the 2-penny switch. You use 2 pennies, copper ones, soldered to your house wires, and this is your switch. No controller needed if you're willing to just start it by hand and then fire it up, and it takes off and goes, believe me. Maybe I should give a little demo. Swing myself on here, and we'll flip it to go here, and head up the street. So here goes the spark. That's full electric, no pedal power. And you can see it's running, it's pegging the meter at over 15 amperes. So it's a fairly powerful little motor, and the battery, of course, does a good job with it. Now that we're on the flat spot, it'll really take off, and your terminal amperage with the series wound DC motor will be about 5 amps on a flat spot. We're down to 9 now. This is a cold day here in January in Gainesville, Florida. And I don't have my jacket on, so I'm going to freeze myself. So we'll head home. Might even pedal a little bit. But then again, maybe we should just demonstrate the motor and the battery. It's a nice, quiet motor. You can probably hear me talking over it, although this is a fairly cheap video camera I use for these little demos. And later on I'll show you my other bicycle, which is not a tandem. It has the same configuration. And of course the nice thing about using a drill battery from Lowe's is that the battery is a little cheaper if you buy it with the drill pack, and then you have a drill, and hopefully they will continue to make these batteries. If this one ever fails, then I'll be all set and buy a new one. So anyway, that's the tandem electric bike. I recommend lithium batteries now. They're getting cheaper and cheaper, and of course they're very lightweight. You can pay a lot more for a 24-volt battery than $20. If anybody can find a better deal, I wish you would write to me, because I'm always looking for better sources. But generally you pay $40, $60, even $80 or $100 for a 24-volt rechargeable lithium battery. So I tried the 40-volt batteries on it. As you may know, Kobalt has a 40-volt line of power tools that includes a blower, a string trimmer for your weeds, and also a chainsaw. Both the 12-inch bar for the double-handled one and the 8-inch bar for the pole saw. Those are very nice tools, but 40 volts on this 24-volt motor propels it a little bit too fast for comfort for this old guy. I don't like to speed along at 25 or 30 miles an hour. It just seems too hard to get the thing stopped. So the 40 volt works, but I recommend keeping 24 volts on this. That's about right for this type machine. So happy bicycle riding.